It all kicks off with everyone talking about this college genius who's good at everything. They all think he's going to get a legendary class, and one girl even wants to confess her feelings to him. But to get why this is such a big deal, we have to rewind 100 years to when the world basically got turned into a video game. Out of nowhere, a bunch of monsters appeared and people started awakening special abilities. Since then, humanity has had to fight and level up just to survive in this new world, because the other option is pretty simple, direct, and boils down to one thing: game over. That's why prodigies like our hero get so much attention. The future of humanity rests on their shoulders. We finally meet our boy Jiang Li, who was reincarnated into this world 18 years ago and has been training like crazy. His one and only goal is to become the strongest, and his skills are top-notch in every category. In this world, classes are divided into basic, advanced, and hidden, with the last one being the rarest of them all. A professor or dean has immense faith in his potential, certain that the kid has a bright future ahead. But being that good tends to attract a lot of envy, and it isn't long before someone shows up to be a pain. This guy is Yanshu, one of the other geniuses at the academy, and he walks right up asking what class Jiang Li is going to awaken. Our MC knows Yanshu's dad is a big shot, but he's always been one step ahead of his rival. So, our hero just walks away from the group of bullies, thinking about what he's going to awaken. But Yanshu doesn't let it slide and taunts our hero, saying he might end up with a trash tier class. Jiang Li gets annoyed by the guy's nerve and tells him to let go immediately. The bully is actually a little surprised by our protagonist's unexpected reaction. Then, with a glint in his eyes, our boy intimidates the dude. Yanshu just scoffs as our hero walks away, not paying him any mind. Jiang Li knows today is a huge deal, and it would be super embarrassing to fail the awakening. The ceremony begins with some kid failing, which just goes to show that when a genius bombs, it becomes a joke. A teacher consoles a student, telling him not to get discouraged even with a common profession. Suddenly, a super bright green light surprises everyone in the audience. A girl named Lemoine awakens the advanced Swift Archer class. The crowd goes wild over the awakening of their academy's golden girl. Our boy watches the blonde from the crowd. And now it's Yanshu's turn, who becomes a flame mage. An advanced class, but he doesn't seem too thrilled. People are impressed, but he just brags while our hero thinks they're all a bunch of fools. Yanshu then turns to Jiang Li and says that talent is something you're born with, not something you can earn. Finally, it's Jiang Li's turn, and he walks up on stage full of confidence, passing right by his rival. The evaluators comment on how he's the top student and how he truly stands out. Our hero then focuses on the altar, and a blue aura starts to emanate from his body. A moment later, a book and a sword appear, showing the two classes he could awaken. Then, a blast of blue energy takes over the place, surprising everyone. The teachers are shocked by the commotion his awakening is causing. One of them even wonders if it could possibly be an ultra-rare, unique hidden class. The energy slowly calms down, and our protagonist waits for the final result. But to everyone's surprise, the class that appears on the screen is Basic Mage. The evaluators are completely clueless, wondering how the top student got something so common. Yanshu seizes the opportunity to laugh in his face, saying his Fire Mage is way better. The crowd also starts to clown on him, saying the genius was a fraud, and they go to suck up to the other girl. Our boy just stands there in silence, listening to all the mockery from the audience. The entire crowd whispers in disappointment, as they expected so much more from our hero. Finally, he faces the audience and feels the full weight of shame for having failed in front of everyone. Alone in the dark, our boy wonders if this is all he managed to awaken. But suddenly, his eyes light up as he realizes something different is happening. A screen pops up congratulating him on awakening a special talent. Jiang Li has never heard of this and wonders if it has something to do with his reincarnation. He then checks his skills and sees they aren't at max level yet, which leaves him confused. The system shows he has 3 basic mage spells: Fireball, Light Armor, and Meditation. However, the level bars for his skills start filling up on their own, super fast, and the reflection of what's happening is written all over our hero's surprised face. The 3 skills level up at an insane speed without him doing a single thing. In a matter of seconds, they all hit max level, and he has no idea what just happened. Jiang Li then remembers a class where the professor explained initial skills. The teacher said that leveling up skills is extremely difficult, and that almost no one manages to max all of them out. But our protagonist cracks a smirk, because for him, it was the easiest thing in the world. He realizes that fate hasn't abandoned him, and this talent is better than any hidden class. Suddenly, a professor shakes him out of his thoughts, asking if he's alright. The director tries to cheer Jiang Li up, saying he still has a bright future ahead of him. Our hero thanks him and says he'll keep trying his best, pretending to be disappointed. The man buys the act and proudly tells our boy to head back to the classroom. As he walks, he reflects on how harsh reality can be. He knows everyone would rather see a genius fail than succeed, and he lets out a little smirk. But he thinks he just might disappoint everyone in a completely different way. After that, he heads to a training ground where students are practicing their new spells. One of the guys who hangs with Yanshu launches a powerful fireball that hits a target. His buddies celebrate and praise Yanshu's power, who looks pretty proud of himself. But he soon spots our protagonist walking by and decides to stir up some trouble. The bully then calls our hero a common mage, trying to humiliate him in front of everyone. One of his friends gets ticked off because Jiang Li doesn't respond and even readies a fire attack. Our boy finally stops and turns around, asking in a cold tone what he wants. Yanshu, who just destroyed a target, calls the genius over to show off his skills. But Jiang Li just says they can practice on their own, because he's already plenty skilled. Yanshu challenges him to a skills competition, bragging about being an advanced flame mage. He even calls our hero a coward, but Jiang Li gets a look on his face that shows he did not appreciate that taunt one bit. Then our boy leaps over an attack and launches a basic fireball, surprising his rival. Yanshu mocks him for using such a weak spell and wonders if he's being serious. However, the tiny fireball explodes with insane force, engulfing the bully and his friends. Yanshu is thrown back by the explosion, completely baffled by what just happened. The explosion was so massive that everyone on the training field was shocked by its power. The nearby training dummies simply melted from the heat of the attack. His rival is completely dumbfounded and can't believe all of that was caused by a basic spell. But Jiang Li knows the power of his fireball is just off the charts now. Arriving home, he reflects that the attack used up half his mana and he needs to level up fast. Suddenly, a voice calls out to him, asking why he came home without saying anything. It was his mother, Dan Qingshu, who tells him to go wash his hands because dinner is on the table. Our hero then tells her that he successfully awakened and became a mage today. She's happy with the news and says mages are great because they stay safe in the back lines. His mother then says she has something for him, leaving him very confused about the situation. She hands him a box and says it was a gift from his father, who is a powerful professional. Our hero is shocked, because his mother always told him his father had passed away before he was born. He gets angry and asks why their father abandoned them for all these years. But she says she doesn't really know, and that he went to the edge of the world to handle something important. She asks him not to blame his father, because he promised he would make his son a mage. Now that he's grown up and become a mage, she gets emotional and starts to cry a little. She says she's tired and tells our boy to go his room and see what's in the box. In his room, he stares at the mysterious gift left by his father. As soon as he opens the box, a very strong golden light shines from within. Our protagonist is completely amazed by what he sees inside the gift. Inside the box is a scroll that can change his class to a more powerful one. However, the requirement to use the item is to reach the gold rank, which leaves him speechless. Professions have various ranks, and his father was one of the best at the gold level. He then wonders what level his father must be to get an item like this, and why he disappeared. Our hero now needs a way to level up to gold rank and puts the scroll away. Because in 7 days there's a big test in the city, and he wants to be ready. Heading out to train, he already hears some guys mocking him for being an ignorant newbie. Someone even guesses he might have a special profession, but another guy calls him blind. He points out that our hero is skinny and could only be some random mage. Suddenly a girl taps our protagonist on the shoulder, calling him little bro. The young woman named Vivi realizes he's a newbie and invites him to join her party. However, her companions don't like the idea and call him a burden for being weak. Vivi gets mad at them, but Jiang Li says it's okay and that he doesn't mind. He thanks her for her kindness but prefers to go solo for now. When he turns to leave, the girl calls him back and stops him. Since he didn't want to join the party, she gives him a mana potion that might come in handy. Our boy thanks her for the gift with a smile on his face. Then her group says goodbye and leaves, leaving our hero alone. Shortly after, our protagonist enters the Grey Forest and finds a level 9 goblin. Without wasting any time, our hero prepares a small fireball in his hand. He then launches the spell, which grows to an absurd size and heads straight for the monster. The goblin doesn't even have time to react and is hit head on by the flaming attack. The creature stares at the approaching fire, but it's already too late to try and escape. A moment later, a huge explosion happens, kicking up a lot of smoke in the forest. He confirms that his fireball took care of the level 9 goblin in an instant. However, he soon realizes something is wrong and that he's not alone out here, because the sound of the explosion attracted an entire horde of goblins right to him. But he's not scared. In fact, he thinks it's great, because it saves him the trouble of hunting them one by one. One of the goblins attacks him from behind, and he activates his light armor to defend himself. The monster's club slams into the light barrier but fails to break it. Other creatures attack, but his maxed out armor is tough and doesn't give way. With his defense secured, our boy prepares another fireball to finish them off. He then launches the spell with all his might into the ground, creating a new wave of fire. The explosion hits all the goblins surrounding him at once. After the blast he levels up to 2, but he thinks the experience gained was way too little. Soon after, more goblins appear in the forest, drawn by the earlier commotion. Our protagonist is unfazed and says it doesn't matter how many come, the result will be the same. He then cracks his knuckles to get ready for the next magic attack, but our hero panics as he realizes something has gone very wrong. It turns out his mana is completely gone after using just 2 fire spells and 1 armor spell. But luckily, his light shield was still at half strength, and he could use meditation afterward. So our boy picks up a club from the ground, since the goblins can't break through his defense. With a confident smile, he says he's going to have a little fun with the creatures. And so, he charges at the goblins to show them the power of a melee mage. The first strike lands squarely on one of the monsters, who didn't even see what hit it. But as expected, the damage from a melee mage is pretty low, only taking out 10 health points. However, a blue glint appears in his eye, as he has a plan in mind. Jiang Li knows that 10 damage is enough, since the goblins can't hurt him. Finally, after a lot of effort, he defeats them all and levels up to 3, completely exhausted. Our hero analyzes that his mana only allows for 2 fireballs and that leveling up this way is way too slow. Suddenly, a noise in the forest puts him on alert for what's to come. He then notices several red eyes staring at him from the darkness of the night. A moment later, we only see the smoke coming from a creature's nostrils. In front of him, an elite monster appears, a giant goblin with a huge axe. Our boy gets excited because he knows an elite monster gives a ton of experience. With a smile, he gets ready to use light armor and start the fight. But nothing happens, and the giant goblin is pretty confused by the scene. Jiang Li looks at his status bar and realizes he's made a terrible mistake, because he doesn't have enough mana to even cast his light armor. The monster wastes no time and readies a powerful attack with its axe. The creature then swings with all its might, and our protagonist barely dodges the blow. He knows the situation has gotten really tricky without being able to use his magic. Suddenly, a small goblin attacks him, but he manages to block it with the club. Our hero had almost forgotten that the other little monsters were still around. The goblins take advantage of him being out of mana and attack relentlessly, giving him no break. Our hero then thinks of 3 ways to get out of this. The first is to use meditation. However, with so many monsters attacking at once, it's impossible to concentrate. While dodging the blows, he realizes he won't be able to focus at all. The second option is to use the potion he received, but it only restores 1/3 of his mana. The third and final option would be to retreat and come back to fight later with full mana. But running away isn't really our protagonist's style, and he doesn't want to let the monster get away, because if he waits for his mana to recover, another adventurer might end up stealing his kill. Without a second thought, he drinks the mana potion to get some power back. The giant goblin attacks him, but our hero uses the mana he recovered just in time. The monster's axe slams into the light armor he just cast. The creature is surprised, not expecting him to still have mana to defend himself. Now with his light armor active, our protagonist feels a bit more secure, and he wonders how much mana he can recover with his max level meditation. The goblin attacks with full force, but our hero is betting his armor will hold. While the goblins attack, he sits down and uses his meditation skill. The giant goblin roars in anger and orders its minions to attack him with everything they've got. The little monsters relentlessly pound on the light armor, which starts to wear down. The shield bar slowly decreases, but his mana starts filling up pretty quickly. The giant creature then delivers a powerful blow that cracks his entire defense. The light shield finally shatters into pieces, leaving him vulnerable. The shield bar disappears, but his mana is almost full for the counter-attack. With a determined look, he says that's more than enough to end this fight. The goblin scoffs at him, asking if he's tired of getting beat up like that. But our hero says it's his turn now and prepares his fireball. The dragon-shaped attack flies with full force towards the giant creature. The magic hits the monster's weak spot, dealing a devastating critical strike. A moment later, our protagonist appears, panting after using all his power. He's relieved it worked and praises the power of his meditation. And to his surprise, he goes up 4 levels at once for killing the elite monster. After the fight, he goes to check out what cool loot the monster dropped for him. The goblin dropped a pair of pretty decent leather gloves and boots, but he thinks these starter items won't make much of a difference. He also complains that he still can't use a 3rd fireball, and to make matters worse, farming like this is way less efficient compared to killing an elite monster. Our hero then thinks about how great it would be if he had a low-cost spell. Suddenly, he notices something shiny on the ground and gets really curious. As luck would have it, he finds a skill book that any class can learn. With a grin from ear to ear, he picks up the book, excited about the new skill. Upon opening the book, a blue electric energy surges through his body. The new skill is Arc Lightning, an area of effect spell that doesn't consume mana. He gets super excited because the skill scales with his level and has a crowd control effect. After that, he finds a goblin camp where they are all asleep. Our protagonist doesn't miss the opportunity and immediately goes to test his new magic. The arc lightning hits all the goblins, paralyzing them with a shock. The goblins that survive wake up confused and angry about the surprise attack. Seeing that one shock wasn't enough, he readies another electric blast. The second attack hits the monster's head on, leaving them paralyzed again. A moment later, another discharge of blue energy strikes the creatures. The goblins finally fall defeated, even though the damage isn't that high. Our hero then realizes the new skill is perfect for dealing with small mobs. Now that he has a way to handle mobs, he feels more confident. With a determined smile, he decides his next target is the forest boss. But learning from his previous mistake, he stops to recover his mana first. In the preview for the next chapter, we see a mysterious ice mage appear. Back in the present, our protagonist encounters another mage in the forest. He checks his stats and now has 4 skills available to use. He then finds the goblin tribe and concludes the chief must be inside. Our boy hopes everyone is asleep to make his infiltration easier. His plan is simple: find the chief and toss a few fireballs his way. It starts with our hero sneaking through the camp, but he ends up stepping on a twig. The noise panics him as he didn't want to wake anyone up just yet. And as expected, one of the goblins wakes up, very confused by the sudden noise. However, Jiangli gives the creature a death glare, telling it to stay quiet. Then he whacks the critter with his club to make sure it doesn't call for reinforcements. With a smile, our hero picks up the unconscious goblin and confirms his suspicions. But the noise from the scuffle wakes up another goblin, who lets out a loud, angry roar. That roar was enough to wake up the entire camp at once. With no other choice, Jiangli bolts, telling the goblins to stop because he needs his mana for the boss. However, one of the creatures catches up to him and manages to land a hit. Fed up with getting hit, he gets angry and tells everyone to stop. An electric aura surrounds his body, and he asks if the goblins really want to fight. Then he unleashes the full power of his arc lightning on the monsters. The electric discharge hits all the goblins at once, paralyzing them in the process. He then launches another attack to make sure no one is getting back up. After finishing off the goblins, our hero complains about them attacking him. However, he looks around and can't find the tribe's chief anywhere. Suddenly, the ground starts to crack and tremble in a very strange way. Then, a giant, cloaked figure emerges from the earth, causing an earthquake. Our boy is surprised and wonders why all of this is happening out of the blue. The scene then cuts to a group of 3 guys who were in the forest earlier. This is Yan Quan, Yanshu's cousin, and he plans to capture Jiangli to please his family. One of his henchmen questions if our hero would still be in the forest this late. Yan Quan gets angry and asks if the guy doesn't trust his word. The kid gets scared and says he's just worried about the dangers of the night. Suddenly, the ground starts to shake and the trio goes on high alert. Yanshu's cousin realizes someone has triggered the boss and smiles at his luck. He explains that the boss is a goblin shaman and that they can barely handle it. His plan is to let whoever it is do the fighting and then steal the reward. Meanwhile, our protagonist faces the boss and thinks it looks weaker than the last one. Finally, the area boss appears, a very intimidating level 20 goblin shaman. Without wasting time, the monster starts preparing an ice spell to attack. But our hero scoffs, asking if he's a mage too, and prepares his own fireball. He then says the boss's casting speed is way too slow and launches his attack first. The fireball hits the shaman's weak spot, dealing critical damage to the creature. A huge explosion of flames engulfs the boss, who seems to have been defeated. However, an ice arrow shoots out from the middle of the fire, heading straight for our boy. Jiangli figured it wouldn't be that easy, but his light armor protects him. But he's shocked by the high damage the level 5 ice spell caused. The shaman then emerges from the flames without a scratch and glares at our hero. To make matters worse, 2 more goblin mages appear to help their chief. The monster moves incredibly fast and vanishes from our protagonist's sight for a moment. A moment later, the boss reappears and prepares a new, much stronger ice spell. He then launches a blast of ice that easily destroys a tree. Our boy realizes the boss's cloak has fire resistance, which is why it survived. Our hero knows that with his current mana, he doesn't stand a chance against the boss, so he decides to hide and recover some energy before it's too late. But the goblin shaman is already preparing a new, much more powerful ice attack. Jiangli runs to hide behind a tree as the boss takes aim at him. The monster then creates a massive ice sword and prepares to strike. He then hurls the weapon with insane force towards our boy. The ice attack is so strong that it freezes and shatters everything in its path. The ice sword just grazes our hero, but he narrowly escapes. Meanwhile, he sits down and uses his meditation to recover mana as fast as possible. His eyes glow with the blue energy of his recovery skill. The boss lets out an evil laugh, thinking he's already won the fight against the kid. However, the creature prepares a final attack with giant ice crystals. Jiang Li realizes his mana still isn't enough to use a fireball, so the only thing he can do is use his arc lightning skill. The bolt hits the boss's ice magic in a desperate attempt to defend himself. Our hero's lightning hits the ice and paralyzes the shaman, who is left in shock. The creature then falls to its knees, unable to move because of the attack. With the boss defenseless, our protagonist approaches to finish the fight. He then realizes his skill can interrupt spells and smiles at the discovery. Seeing a good opportunity, our boy rushes towards the paralyzed monster, and with the boss unable to resist, he rips off the cloak that protected it from fire. Now with the enemy's item in hand, he says it's his turn to attack. The shaman is on the ground, panting and with no strength left to continue the battle. But suddenly, a very loud roar startles our protagonist and changes the situation. A new two-headed monster appears and tells the others to look around. The two-headed creature is on high alert, having sensed someone else nearby. It then spots a blue ice arrow stuck in a nearby tree. A moment later, a new blue-skinned shaman emerges with an ice crystal in its hand. The creature then shows off its power by creating a giant ice barrier. Then, the new boss launches an ice attack with full force into the forest. The new boss's ice magic explodes, but it was just a distraction for our hero. The blue shaman roars in anger as its attack hit no one, and its red eyes show pure surprise at having missed its shot. In reality, the first shaman ended up frozen in the middle of its own camp. The creature gets really annoyed and wonders where our protagonist was looking. But Jiang Li appears behind it with a flaming club, ready to strike. The monster turns around and faces our boy's fireball coming right at it. Desperate, the shaman creates a magic defense circle to try and protect itself. However, its defense can't withstand the power and shatters into pieces. A moment later, our hero's attack lands a direct hit, dealing critical damage. The beast falls, defeated, and our boy explains that his fireball is max level. Jiang Li then says the shaman was very unlucky to have run into him today. And without a second thought, he finishes the creature off with a well-placed club strike. With the victory, he goes up 3 levels at once, reaching level 10. Our hero also gets a staff and a magic item as a reward. He also picks up the boss's cloak and discovers it has fire resistance but is broken. But the best item he finds is an ice arrow skill book, which he maxes out instantly. Our boy is thrilled with the magic's power and wonders what it'll be like at max level. Plus, the staff he got has magic penetration and will be great against tough monsters. But a voice interrupts him, telling him not to move and to put his hands up. It was the guys from before, who finally found him alone in the middle of the forest. The group's leader recognizes him and congratulates him on defeating the area boss. Jiang Li is surprised and wonders how this stranger knows his name. The guy introduces himself as Yan Quan from the Yan family, looking pretty arrogant. He then says he heard our hero has been bullying his cousin at school. Our protagonist pretends to be scared and says he would never harm his classmate. To prove his goodwill, he offers all the items he got in exchange for being friends. The group then approaches to pick up the rewards lying on the ground. But Yan Quan isn't interested in friendship and threatens to hurt our boy anyway. However, Jiang Li cracks a smile and tells them not to start a fight so soon. One of the henchmen notices that our hero is using meditation to recover mana. But Yan Quan doesn't care, thinking that 3 guys with advanced classes can handle 1 common mage. But out of nowhere, Jiang Li casts an arc lightning and paralyzes the bully on the ground. Our hero then says that villains die from talking too much, and he was just waiting for his mana to fill up. Yan Quan is in shock and doesn't understand how he managed to cast a spell so quickly. With a smile, Jiang Li prepares a fireball and replies that he doesn't know either. A moment later, a massive explosion of flames engulfs the entire group at once. The 3 bullies fall defeated, and our hero notices they had some good items, so he takes the opportunity to grab everything for himself, even getting a new sword. But he thinks he leveled up too little, and decides to find another place to train. He also thinks it's pathetic that 3 upperclassmen were defeated by a rookie. Finally, he returns to Rosetown, exhausted after the long night. Carrying everything on his back, he complains about the weight and wishes he had an inventory item. Soon, he finds a place called the Golden Dragon's Treasury and heads over. Upon entering, a receptionist in a bunny girl outfit greets him and asks if she can help. Jiang Li arrives at the shop and immediately dumps all the items he got on the counter to sell. A short while later, the woman returns and says the total comes to 1 million dragon coins. Our hero is shocked, since his mother only makes pocket change, and he just made a fortune. With the cash in hand, he asks if the shop has any basic skill books for sale. Meanwhile, a mysterious girl named Mo Chinking recognizes him from a distance. In the shop's library, he asks for recommendations for basic mage spells. The attendant then shows him several books, but they all cost 600,000 coins each. Our boy is taken aback by the price and realizes his 1 million isn't that much after all. So he decides that for now, he'll only buy 1 low-level skill. He thinks about his spells and decides he needs a control skill, choosing slow. With his decision made, He confirms with the woman that he'll take the slow technique. With the remaining money, he decides to buy some mana potions just in case. Changing scenes, we see Mo Chinking receiving a report about a new dungeon. She says she'll look for the entrance herself and thanks her assistant. Then she remembers Jiang Lai and finds it strange to see him there, since she heard he became a common mage. Her assistant pulls her out of her thoughts, asking what she's thinking about so deeply. But the girl just giggles and says it's nothing important. The man then says that if she can clear the new dungeon, her level will skyrocket, and that she will definitely surpass the girl from the Li family in the upcoming competition. Mo Qingqing then tells him to assemble the team, as she will personally lead the assault on the dungeon. Meanwhile, our hero is already in the Gale Plains, training against some wind wolves. He uses his lightning magic and hits one of the monsters, which doesn't even see the attack coming. Our boy then realizes that as his level increased, so did his magic damage, and now he's sure he can defeat the goblins with just a single lightning strike. However, a much larger wolf appears and tries to attack our protagonist from behind, but he activates his light armor and manages to defend against the creature's surprise attack. Seeing that he's surrounded by monsters, our hero complains that they seem endless. He then prepares for the next round of attacks against the wolf pack. With his new staff in hand, he faces the monsters running towards him. Finally, he charges a large amount of energy and prepares a new electric attack. The wind wolves charge with full force at our protagonist. However, the pack is too fast and manages to dodge his electric attack. Jiang Lai is surprised, as he didn't expect them to be able to dodge his lightning. Since his magic didn't work, he decides to change his tactics on the spot. He then uses the new slow skill he bought earlier at the shop. A purple aura appears on the ground, trapping the paws of the running wolves. With the monsters finally slowed, he manages to land his attacks on them. Our hero notices that the new spell is great but only works on one target, so he needs to finish off the other wolves quickly before more arrive. A little while later, he's already drinking a mana potion to recover from the fight. He's thankful he bought the supplies, and now he's at level 11. But suddenly, our boy feels something strange and goes on full alert. A moment later, a level 20 elite wolf appears with its pack. But to everyone's surprise, the creature drops to the ground lifeless, and in its place, a giant lightning wolf appears, which is the true boss. Without wasting time, he charges at the giant wolf with his flaming club, and the attack hits the creature's weak spot, dealing critical damage. With the other wolves defeated, it's now a one-on-one fight against the boss. The creature then roars in anger and lunges at our hero with everything it has. But our boy uses his new skill and tells the monster to behave. The slow spell traps the wolf on the ground, leaving it completely vulnerable. Now with the boss stationary, he faces the creature up close without any fear. He even reflects that he doesn't know the weak spot of this particular monster. However, our protagonist is certain of one thing and prepares his fireball, because he knows that if it has fur, it's weak to fire, and that's all he needs to know. The giant wolf even seems to understand what's about to happen and makes a disgusted face. A moment later, a fiery explosion hits the beast's weak spot again. With the victory, he goes up 2 more levels and is now level 13. As a reward, he gets a dagger and a very useful black iron ring. Our hero is happy with the result and wonders how much he can profit from this. Suddenly, the ground starts to shake, and our hero has no idea what's happening. His eyes widen in surprise at what's heading his way. He then spots a stampede of wolves running endlessly across the plains. A giant horde of monsters rushes past, and he gets pretty scared. Our boy is worried because he just fought an elite monster and is tired. The wolf pack stares at him with their glowing eyes, ready to attack. However, the creatures simply run past him, completely ignoring him. Jiang Li is very confused and wonders if they weren't after him. He then realizes he wasn't the monster's target and feels a sense of relief. He quickly figures out that wolves are pack animals, and that someone must have triggered the boss. Without wasting time, he runs, not wanting anyone else to get the boss first. Arriving there, he finds another group of adventurers already in the boss area. And among them is Vivi, the girl who gave him a potion earlier. One of the guys in the group complains that they're taking advantage of the situation. But a moment later, another adventurer attacks him from behind without mercy. The traitor says they aren't heroes, and that it's the group's fault for coming unprepared. Shortly after, another group of villains appears and says the boss and the loot are theirs. The gang then approaches Vivi's team, who are completely cornered. The girl's captain then tries to negotiate, offering everything so they can leave. The leader of the villains laughs, and seems like he's going to accept their offer. However, he changes his mind and now wants the priestess to stay with him too. The bald guy then says that after he's had his fun with her, he'll let them go. Vivi panics, and her captain tells her not to blame him for the decision. The coward starts to cry and screams desperately that he just wants to stay alive. The girl is in shock, unable to believe he's actually going to hand her over. He then approaches her, and she tells him not to come any closer. The young woman closes her eyes and pleads for help, having lost all hope. Suddenly, a blue lightning bolt strikes the group of villains, catching everyone by surprise. The electric attack paralyzes everyone, and Vivi's team is left confused. The bald guy gets furious and wonders who dared to ruin his plans. The leader of the villains gets angry at the surprise attack and demands that whoever did it show themselves. And from the shadows, our hero emerges with a mocking smile on his face. Jiang Li then says it's not even dark yet, and these guys are already out here causing trouble. Seeing the boy there, one of the traitors attacks him with his sword without a second thought, but our protagonist defends himself with a fire barrier and tells him not to interrupt. Meanwhile, the cowardly captain tries to run away, begging them not to take him out. Vivi then recognizes our hero and is shocked that he's there to save her. The bald guy is stunned that his men were defeated with a single blow, but he calms down, thinking that in the end, our hero is just a common mage, so he orders all his henchmen to attack him at once, relentlessly. Our boy just watches and wonders why they're all rushing in so fast. With a smile, he asks if the villains are in that much of a hurry to meet their end. The fireball explodes, defeating most of the bald guy's minions instantly. The leader is in shock and doesn't understand how such a basic spell can be so powerful. And on the ground, the swords of his men show the result of our hero's power. Seeing our hero's strength, the bald guy kneels and begs for forgiveness. He even offers the girl and the area boss as long as our boy lets him go. But Jiang Li isn't interested in talking and prepares an ice arrow to finish him off. The ice attack then hits the villain squarely, who doesn't even have time to react. Before he goes, the bald guy still threatens that his guild will get revenge. After the fight, our hero loots the bodies and is pleased with his power. Vivi then approaches and thanks him for saving her life. She also says she didn't expect him to be so strong and that she was worried. Our protagonist says it was nothing and that they're even now. He then invites her to come with him to kill the dungeon boss. The girl follows him, still shocked that he's barely rested since the last fight. She then wonders if he has a very powerful hidden class. Finally, they arrive at the cave and find the boss, a giant, level 25 wolf. Vivi says she's only level 20 and just reached the black iron rank, so she asks if the two of them alone can really defeat the monster. Our hero says they'll only know if they try and attacks the boss with a fireball. A massive explosion of flames fills the entire cave. But our boy finds it strange that there was no critical hit and wonders if the wolf is resistant. Suddenly, the boss emerges from the fire without a scratch and roars in anger at the intruders. The monster can even talk, which shocks our hero, as bosses aren't usually that smart. The creature charges and Jiang Li notices it doesn't have magic resistance, even though it's not weak to fire, so he prepares his slow spell, confident that he can handle the situation. The purple spell hits the wolf's paws, successfully slowing it down. But even slowed, the creature is still very fast and attacks our protagonist with full force. The wolf's attack hits his light armor, and the shield nearly breaks from the force. Our hero backs away, impressed by the boss's agility even with the slow spell. He decides he needs to get serious and prepares his ice arrow skill. Vivi takes the chance and casts a spell to boost his magic attack power. With his power increased, he creates a giant ice arrow and prepares to fire. However, the wolf manages to dodge the attack, to Vivi's surprise, who didn't see that coming. But our hero cracks a little smile because he already expected the wolf to dodge the attack. So the ice arrow he launched was actually a feint, and he hits a weak spot. The attack hits the wolf, and our boy says he learned this tactic from other monsters. He then explains to Vivi that the weak spot of wolf-type monsters is their waist. The giant creature is badly injured by the surprise attack and is bleeding a lot. Suddenly, the boss lets out a loud roar of pure rage for having fallen into the trap. A red aura surrounds the wolf, and Vivi warns that it has entered berserk mode. A moment later, the monster summons several minions to help it in the fight. Jiang Li is surprised, recognizing the guys the wolf summoned from earlier. He realizes the boss has the ability to summon other creatures to fight for it. Vivi then says she'll help delay the monsters and restore his mana. Without wasting time, our protagonist rushes towards the summoned minions. A huge fire explosion defeats all the monsters and gives him a ton of experience. With so many enemies in the cave, he realizes the space has gotten pretty tight, and that's when he understands that the wolf's agility is now limited with so many monsters around. Our hero then taunts the boss, saying that if it uses the skill again, he might spare its life. The wolf roars in anger and charges at him with its minions to put an end to this. The entire pack charges with full force, with the boss leading the attack in a fury. But our boy just smiles and says the right moment has finally arrived. He then launches a fireball that explodes and defeats all the monsters again. With the experience from the minions, he levels up to 14 right in the middle of the fight. Vivi also gains some experience and looks pretty tired from the situation. And with the combined experience from all of them, our protagonist levels up to 15. He then uses his last mana potion to continue the battle against the boss. Our hero then says that if he had known the wolf had this ability, he wouldn't have wasted time. The boss is surprised and wonders what happened to all its minions. Our boy just says there's nothing to be done and that he'll have to end the fight. He then prepares his final ice arrow to deliver the finishing blow to the creature. The wolf panics and calls him a demon as the attack approaches. The arrow hits the monster squarely, which calls him a demon before being defeated. With the boss's defeat, the cave trembles and Vivi levels up to 21. Our hero also levels up to 16 and is happy with the victory. Vivi then thinks about how he used the boss to farm and wonders who the real monster was here. After the fight, our boy calls her over. He then offers her a magic staff as her share of the loot, but she refuses, thinking she did nothing to deserve the reward. However, our protagonist says she was a great support and that he'll still need her. With the staff in hand, Vivi feels important to our boy. He then checks the 2 books the boss left behind. The new skills are lightness and swamp, and he understands why the wolf was so fast. He thinks the swamp magic will be great for trapping multiple enemies. Suddenly, the girl calls him over to see something she found. It was a ghost orchid, a very rare and valuable medicinal plant. Our hero then divides the flowers and gives one to her, and she thanks him. He's happy because his mother is a commoner, and the plant can help cure her illnesses. With the plant in hand, our hero hopes to alleviate some of her pain. Suddenly, Vivi gets confused by something she saw deeper in the cave. She then calls our boy over and points to a rock wall that's glowing. Our protagonist realizes there's something inside, and tells her to step back a bit. With a fireball, he destroys the wall, revealing a secret passage. The 2 then approach and realize what their new discovery is. It was a secret dungeon that had been hidden right here all along. The system informs them it's a level 25 black iron dungeon with a hard difficulty. Vivi thinks the place is too dangerous and suggests they go back to prepare. But our hero says she can go ahead, and that he'll protect her if she stays. The girl gets all flustered by his confidence, and thinks it's nice to hear that. She then gets excited and says she'll do her best to help in the dungeon. The 2 then enter the new challenge, and the mission is to stop a dark mage's ritual. Our protagonist is excited because a dark mage has a chance to drop mage items. Without a second thought, he runs into the dungeon full of excitement. But as soon as he enters, he gets a fright and pulls Vivi to hide quickly. The girl has no idea what's going on, and he just tells her to look ahead. A level 20 skeleton knight appears mounted on its horse. Our boy then realizes the dungeon isn't easy, as the monsters are strong. And a moment later, more skeletons appear, which gets him excited about the rewards. However, one of the creatures spots them and shouts, calling the pair outsiders. The 2 are surprised, not expecting to be discovered so quickly. Without wasting time, the monsters charge right at them. Luckily, Jiang Li notices the critters aren't very smart and just charge straight ahead, so he decides to use his new swamp magic to test its power. The spell creates a muddy area right in front of the advancing enemies, and the skeleton knights end up falling into the trap and getting stuck. One of them even tries to get out, but the swamp magic slows it down considerably. With the monsters trapped, our hero prepares a fireball to finish them off, and he launches the attack with full force at the skeletons, who can't defend themselves. Our hero is impressed by the range of his new swamp magic, and now he feels more confident in dealing with multiple enemies at once. Suddenly, a very loud scream startles the duo, putting them on alert. Vivi wonders what that was and if someone might be fighting a boss. Our boy then says that other intruders must have arrived and goes to check it out. Further ahead, they find Mo Qingqing and her team fighting the skeletons. Mo Qingqing is annoyed because she hasn't even defeated one monster yet and already wants to retreat. Suddenly, a skeleton with a red dagger appears to attack her. The creature charges with full force and her bodyguard panics at the scene. But out of nowhere, our hero appears and blocks the attack with his light armor. Mo Qingqing is surprised to see Jiang Li there in front of her. The bodyguard also recognizes him and remembers he's from the same class. He doesn't understand how the kid who just awakened is already so strong. So the guard tells him to get out of there, because the monsters are too strong for him. But our hero just thanks him for the concern and faces the situation. With a single fire attack, he defeats all the skeletons at once. The explosion engulfs the creatures, who don't even have time to react to the power. And with the victory, he gains 40 experience points from each of the monsters. Our hero then levels up to 17 and says he's done here. Mo Qingqing's bodyguard is shocked that he defeated them all with one blow. Mo Qingqing herself is impressed by our protagonist's strength. The guard then tries to play it cool and says they could have done that too. Mo Qingqing finally recognizes him, and our hero wonders if he knows her. He then remembers she's the other genius girl from the rival academy, Li Muan's rival. She warns him to be careful, but the guard says they already weakened the monsters. And he even says that our hero just finished the job they started. Our boy then says that if there's nothing else, he's leaving. As he walks away, he thinks that her team won't be a match for the boss. But Mo Chunking calls him back and asks if he's already at the Black Iron rank. Our protagonist just stares at her in silence and doesn't answer the question. He then reveals he's already at level 17 and that it won't be long now. Mo Chunking is shocked because he achieved all that in just a few days. So she asks for a favor and wonders if he can help her clear the dungeon. As a reward, she offers a promotion gem for the Black Iron rank. Our hero is surprised because her necklace is a storage item. He knows items like that are expensive and feels a bit awkward about the situation. The boy keeps staring at the necklace, and she tells him to stop looking. The girl gets embarrassed, and our hero loses focus for a moment. He then thinks that the gem is rare, and that he'll need it to avoid losing experience. Because with his leveling speed, he's sure to hit level 20 soon. He agrees to help but tells her to send her team away, so they don't have to split the EXP. One of the guards refuses to obey and says she can't leave her alone. But Mo Chunking gets annoyed and says it's boring with them around, and tells them to leave. The guard then agrees but says they first need to test our hero's strength. So the knight draws his sword and challenges him to a fight right there. With a confident smile, our hero accepts the guard's challenge and prepares to show his power. He then warns that he won't go easy, and that the knight better be ready for what's coming. He then launches a giant fireball and even taunts, asking the guy to just hold on for a little bit. The knight stands frozen, staring at the wall of flames coming his way. He then wonders how a mage who just awakened can cast such a powerful spell. His helmet starts to melt from the heat, and he accepts that this is his end. However, the flames die down right in front of him, and Jiang Li says that's all for now. Our boy extinguishes the fire in his hand and says that if he wants to continue the fight, the decision is his. The guard is relieved and praises his power, thinking he was lucky he didn't take the attack seriously. After that, the guards say goodbye to Mo Chunking and leave quickly. As soon as they leave, Vivi runs up to our hero, saying she was so scared. Mo Chunking watches the scene and wonders if the two are a couple, as they seem quite close. Then the two introduce themselves. Vivi says her name is Xu Wei, while Mo Chunking says she's his classmate. Mo Chunking analyzes the two from a distance and feels a little jealous of their closeness. Finally, she grabs Jiang Li's arm, saying she needs to talk to him, which startles Vivi. Mo Chunking asks if his awakening was really problematic, and he confirms he's a common mage. But she says you don't need a special class to be truly strong. With a smile on his face, our hero replies that he has his own way. A moment later, he uses the lightness spell to increase his speed. Then Jiang Li defeats several skeletons and quickly levels up to 18. Vivi and Mo Chunking watch from a distance, and the girl wonders if he's always been like this. Mo Chunking notices that his skills are basic but doesn't understand why they are so strong. Suddenly, a dark energy emerges and a new enemy appears in the dungeon. It was a level 27 skeleton knight commander, the area boss. Our boy is surprised by another boss but already prepares his swamp magic. He then says it doesn't matter how many come, because the result will be the same. The spell traps the skeletons, and he's confident they are no threat. However, the boss charges with full force and passes through the swamp trap without any problem. Our protagonist is in shock, not expecting the monster to be so fast. And the knight lands a direct hit that sends our hero flying. The girls scream in desperation as they see our hero get hit squarely. They panic as the skeleton boss seems ready to attack again. So Vivi tells Mo Chunking to go save Jiang Li while she distracts the monsters. Even though she's scared, Mo Chunking prepares to help our protagonist. But suddenly, an ice arrow appears, and a voice says it's not necessary. The attack hits the boss right in the eye, catching it by surprise. Our boy then lands and the girls ask if he's okay. He's thankful his lightness spell was still active, otherwise it would have been worse. However, our hero admits he didn't expect a ranged attack from the boss. Without wasting time, Vivi starts using her healing magic on him. Taking advantage of the opening, the boss charges with its minions to attack. However, Mo Chunking uses a light magic to strengthen her allies. A huge cross of light illuminates the area, weakening the dark monsters. She then shouts that it's the perfect moment for an area of effect attack. Jiang Li gets the message and prepares his powerful arc lightning spell. The electric attack hits all the skeletons, paralyzing them all at once. Our boy is surprised because his damage increased, and he understands it was due to the Holy Light's blessing. Vivi explains that the magic deals holy damage and leaves enemies vulnerable and blind. She is then impressed as this reveals that Mo Chunking is a holy priestess. However, the boss recovers quickly from the attack and shakes off the paralysis effect. Our hero then asks Mo Chunking to use the blessing again while Vivi buffs him. With the plan set, the boss charges at them with full force to attack. The monster gets very close, and the trio braces for the creature's charge. However, the boss stops right in front of them and can't move at all. The creature gets furious, not understanding what's happening, and out of nowhere a huge cross of light appears and traps it in place. The boss gets desperate and starts looking everywhere for the source of the attack. The creature then tells whoever did it to stop hiding and show themselves, but our hero was already right behind the monster, ready for the final blow. He then launches an ice arrow with full force right into the boss's back. With the victory, our hero celebrates and kneels on the ground, panting. He levels up to 20 and even gets a bone spear skill book. However, he realizes the skill can only be used by Black Iron rank mages. Mo-Chinking then approaches and calls him over for a chat. She hands him the promotion gem and even asks him to call her Chinking. Our hero thanks her and says he owes her one for the help. Holding her hand, he promises to pay her back twofold, and the girl gets all flustered. Meanwhile, the guard from before panics upon learning he left her alone. He and his men rush to the dungeon entrance, very worried. The knight says Jiangli is strong, but that he doesn't know if he can handle it. Suddenly, an old man and a chubby guy appear and tell them to stop talking nonsense. But the chubby guy notices something is wrong and tells the old man to look closely. The system then informs them that an accident has increased the dungeon's difficulty. Without a second thought, the old man gathers the troops and orders everyone inside to save her. Back in the dungeon, our hero senses a presence and asks who's there. Suddenly, a mysterious voice asks if they are the dungeon's invaders. Then the creature, with a grim smile, says it's impressed by their strength. And then the final boss emerges, the level 30 Dark Mage Garubi, who promises an end for everyone. Mo-Chinking is terrified, as she's never seen a dungeon boss go after players like that. She also notices that Jiang Li is evolving and that they need to buy him time to finish. But luckily, the cavalry arrives and the guards from before finally show up to help. The girl is relieved to see Uncle Fu and his group, who ask if she's okay. The Dark Mage observes the reinforcements arriving and doesn't seem worried at all. On the contrary, he calls them annoying pests and prepares a rock spike spell. The attack hits one of the knights, who manages to block it with his shield just in time. The guard then scoffs, saying the boss's rank is good, but that alone isn't enough. However, a giant shadow appears and the knight is shocked by what he sees in the sky. The Dark Mage summons a giant demon that crashes down right in the middle of the battle. One of the guys in the group recognizes the creature and yells that it's an Abyss Demon Lord. Garubi then kneels before the demon and offers everyone's souls as a sacrifice. The Demon Lord looks at the humans and laughs, saying they are just mere mortals. The adventurers panic as the creature says they aren't even good enough for a snack. However, a voice interrupts the demon, asking who's going to be the sacrifice here. It was our hero who finally evolved to the Black Iron rank and gained a new power. With a determined look, Jiang Li says the outcome of the fight hasn't been decided yet. Uncle Fu recognizes the new skill as a bone spear and wonders what a mage can do. Without wasting time, our boy attacks the Demon Lord with his new spears. The attacks hit the monster squarely, which seems very annoyed by his audacity. The creature then yells in anger and says our protagonist is asking for it. Uncle Fu is shocked by his power, but knows it's not enough and decides to risk it all. So he gathers his men and orders them all to attack to protect Mo-Chinking. The group's mages launch a combined fire attack at the demon. The old man then throws a scroll to our hero and tells him to take the girl to safety. Uncle Fu prepares to sacrifice himself and entrusts her safety to our boy, but the demon calls them ants and prepares an energy blast to finish them all. The demon unleashes a purple energy blast, yelling for everyone to perish, but Uncle Fu, without hesitation, prepares a counterattack with his Sword of Light, and his light strike manages to momentarily stop the monster's dark energy. But after the clash, the old man is panting, but he managed to protect everyone, and furious at the demon, he prepares for his next move. So he decides to use his strongest technique to buy time for the young lady and our boy. Therefore, the old man leaps into the air with his sword, shouting, "Sword of Judgment." But with a simple movement, the demon catches the man's shining sword and the demon's horn pierces the warrior's side. Then the demon mocks, holding the old man and asking if that's all he's got, and effortlessly the demon throws the warrior aside. So Uncle Fu falls to the ground screaming in pain, and Mo-Chinking holds onto our boy and screams for Uncle Fu. Then everyone yells for him to run while the demon watches, but the demon looks at the fallen man, calling him overrated, and the old man begs Mo-Chinking to escape. Suddenly, a giant ice spear appears and flies straight at the Demon Lord. The attack hits the creature squarely in the chest, who wasn't expecting that. Uncle Fu seizes the opportunity and cuts off the monster's arm with his sword. He then turns and realizes it was our hero who created the opening for the attack. The demon gets furious and asks who dares to hurt it like that. Our protagonist then says he'll take care of the big guy and tells the others to heal up. He launches several bone spears and manages to pin the monster to the ground. Uncle Fu then questions him, as his mission was to protect the young lady. But Jiang Li says it's not necessary because he's figured out a way to damage it. The old man is shocked, wondering how he can use two spells at once. Our hero then combines the bone spear and the ice arrow to create a new power. The demon lord kneels, calling everyone filthy creatures with great anger. He then says this is unforgivable and charges at our protagonist. Jiang Li uses his lightness spell to dodge the attack and prepares for the final blow. With his new power, he hits the dark mage who summoned the demon and defeats him. Our hero reveals he knows the demon's wings are its weak point and asks if he's right. The demon is shocked as it can no longer use magic and asks how he knew. Jiang Li says he learned how to fight demons at the academy, and that it should surrender, but the monster scoffs as its injuries are nothing, and it will recover soon. Impatient, the demon lord goes after the mage Garubi to regain its power. The whole group is shocked by the scene, and Garubi begs his master for mercy. However, the demon doesn't want to talk and simply devours its own servant. The creature then begins to absorb the mage's energy to become even stronger. With that, the monster's body grows and it transforms into a much more powerful form. The demon then roars in pure rage and glares at the humans who challenged it. The system warns that the boss has entered its second phase and is much more dangerous. It then launches an energy beam with full force at our hero, telling him to perish. Luckily, Jiang Li manages to dodge the attack by using his agility magic at its maximum. He thinks he can survive, but his armor can't take a hit, and he can't attack. Suddenly, a light blesses him, increasing his attack power by 200%. Mo Qingqing then uses her blessing and buffs everyone, increasing their defense and speed. The demon lord is surprised by the group's sudden power up, but isn't intimidated. He calls them meddling fools and charges at them without a second thought. Our boy realizes the situation has gotten really bad and that they need to act fast. Seeing the danger, Uncle Fu charges forward to try and intercept the monster's attack. His speed increases by 300%, but the demon is still faster, so Jiang Li steps in front of the girls to protect them from the imminent blow. He activates his light armor, which now has its defense boosted to 200%. The demon's attack lands a direct hit, but luckily, the shield holds up. After defending, the monster steps on something strange and gets very confused by the scene. It was our hero's swamp magic, which traps the creature's feet in the ground. The system warns that the beast is paralyzed and its movements are restricted. With the boss trapped, our boy says he's now going to show them something very interesting. He then combines his lightning and swamp spells, creating the swamp storm. The electric attack in the swamp completely paralyzes the demon lord, who can't move. Seeing the chance, Uncle Fu tells everyone to give their buffs to Jiang Li, as only he can save them. The demon lord gets annoyed by their audacity and prepares an energy attack from its mouth. The creature then launches its power blast with full force, but our hero is unfazed. Our boy combines his bone spear with fireball for the counter-attack. The two powers clash with insane force, creating a massive explosion. However, the demon calls the attack a cheap trick and tries to catch it with its hands. But the fire spear splits into several smaller projectiles and continues to advance. The attacks hit the monster squarely, which feels the damage for the first time. Jiang Li notices the demon is protecting its head a lot and asks if there's something important there. The beast says it doesn't matter if he knows, and more attacks hit its face squarely. Our hero then uses his new explosive bone spear and attacks the monster again. He then shouts that now is the time and prepares his final ice attack. A giant ice explosion engulfs the demon lord, who screams in pure agony. Vivi and the chubby guy watch the scene and wonder if the fight is finally over. But an evil laugh emerges from the smoke, showing that the nightmare isn't over yet. The demon lord emerges from the smoke, all beaten up but still standing and ready for more. It then says their only chance to defeat it has passed, and now it's too late. However, the creature realizes it's not healing and asks what they did to it. Our hero lets out a little chuckle and says it was just a simple slow spell. The demon gets furious, but Jiang Li ignores it and prepares a new ice attack. With a confident smile, he asks if the monster thought he only had one arrow, and out of nowhere, several more ice arrows appear and fly towards the creature. The attacks hit the demon lord squarely, who doesn't understand how that happened. With the victory, our hero levels up 5 times at once, reaching level 25. The whole group celebrates the victory and also goes up 2 levels each from the experience. Uncle Fu watches the boy from a distance and thinks he will become someone very powerful. Meanwhile, Jiang Li reflects that he might have awakened an ability to use 2 spells at once. However, Mo Qingqing's guards complain that with so many buffs, anyone could have won. But the girls ignore them and thank our hero, saying they owe him one. Finally, Jiang Li turns and asks the 2 of them what their plans are for later. Vivi says she's still weak and prefers to train in easier areas for now. Mo Qingqing shyly says that next time, she wants to go with him too. Uncle Fu then invites him to her mansion, and our hero accepts the invitation. With a smile on his face, he He says goodbye and promises he'll definitely show up. After that, the old man says the demon's items belong to him by right. Our boy then picks up a staff and a cloak that can detect invisible enemies. He also finds a pass to the abyss and a stone that can upgrade items. Uncle Fu is impressed, as the stone can upgrade items straight to gold rank. He explains that besides fighters, there are blacksmiths and other support professions. He then recommends the Golden Dragon Pavilion shop, which has the best blacksmith in town. Our hero thanks him for the information and says he was already thinking of going there. Finally, he says goodbye, and the whole group goes their separate ways. And so, our protagonist returns to the Golden Dragon Pavilion from before. Arriving there, he's taken to a VIP room and is impressed by the place's luxury. A moment later, Manager Lin appears, and our hero says he's come to sell some equipment. Manager Lin stands up and says he'll start appraising the items. He then appraises the bronze and iron equipment, and the total comes to 25 million. However, the skill book and the silver bow are much rarer items, so the manager says he can't give a price and suggests he trade them for something else. The bunny girl attendant is shocked, as she's never seen such a large sale. Our hero agrees to the trade and asks for mage items, as well as a bronze promotion orb. The manager then snaps his fingers and tells his assistant to prepare everything for the trade. While waiting, he asks what he should call our protagonist, and he replies, Jiang Li. The man is impressed that he reached this level in just 2 days after awakening. Our boy is surprised and asks how he knows such specific information. Lin explains that their intelligence network is very good and can find out anything if you pay well. Knowing this, Jiang Li asks him to find a master blacksmith for his special gem. A moment later, the assistant returns with the list of items for the trade and hands it to him. And because of the sale, she gifts him a VIP membership card with a 10% discount. She then hands him the bronze promotion orb he asked for in a very fancy box. With a little smile, Manager Lin taps the table and gets Jiang Li's attention. He then says he'll charge 16 million for the orb as a gesture of friendship. Our hero is happy because the item costs 20 million and he saved a lot. He thanks him and says that if he ever needs to sell anything, he'll come to him first. Regarding the blacksmith, Lin says that Master Wang Yun is in town and that he can look for him. Jiang Li thanks him and says goodbye, and the manager tells him not to worry about a thing. The next day, he goes to Wenshang Courtyard to find the said master blacksmith. But upon arrival, the guards don't let him in and block his path. Our hero then shows the Abyss Gem and says he needs the master's help. He also mentions that it was Manager Lin who recommended him and asks them to let him know. One of the guards goes inside and returns shortly after, telling our protagonist to enter. Master Wang Yun greets him and is surprised that Lin recommended someone. Jiang Li praises his reputation, but the blacksmith tells him to get straight to the point. He then shows the gem, and the master is shocked that it's a gold-level item. The man says that not even a gold-rank blacksmith can handle items like this. But the master blacksmith puts on a serious face and says there's a catch to all this. He explains that the failure rate is very high and that he needs to be prepared. So Wang Yun proposes a deal to increase the chances of success. He needs a tooth from a thunder crocodile to finish one of his works. Our hero asks if he wants him to find the said material for the blacksmith. Wang Yun explains that the monster hides from anyone above the black iron rank. Knowing he can increase the chance of success, our boy accepts the challenge. He then says he'll leave now and asks the master to wait for his good news. Leaving the workshop, he's stopped by a group of guys who seem to be looking for someone. The leader asks if he's seen a young 25-year-old warrior around. Our hero then remembers the guy he defeated and says he hasn't seen anyone. The man stops him from leaving and tells him to wait a bit. He explains that the person he's looking for was defeated by a mage and threatens our hero. But Jiang Li just stares at him and says in a very cold tone that no means no. Getting nowhere, the man lets him go, and our hero continues on his way. The brute is furious with our boy's arrogance and swears he'll teach him a lesson. Meanwhile, some guys on the street comment that that was Chen Dong, the vice leader of the Blood Wolves. One of them even gets mad at the group's arrogance and hopes someone puts them in their place. But his friend shuts him up because their leader is a bronze-rank professional and very powerful. Our hero overhears the conversation and realizes he's gotten himself into quite a mess. Putting that aside, he arrives at the Thundering Swamp and already faces some insect monsters. Without wasting time, our protagonist tests one of his new fire spells. The fire rain comes down with full force, burning all the creatures in its path. He is then impressed by the power of a black iron rank spell, and with a smile, he notes that this skill is much more efficient for clearing out monsters. However, as he walks through the forest, he feels that something strange is happening. Our boy then realizes he's being followed by someone hidden in the shadows. So he activates the ability of his new cloak, the Demon's Eye, to see better. With the skill, he finds an invisible assassin and is curious to know what he wants. Suddenly, a noise in the water catches his attention, and he prepares for what's to come. And from the water emerges a level 29 Serpent King that stares at him up close. Our hero sighs, as it's not the monster he's looking for, and it seems this won't be easy. Without wasting time, the creature lunges at him with its mouth open to attack. Our boy narrowly dodges and realizes the situation is not good at all. Meanwhile, the assassin watches from a distance, waiting for the right moment to act. Fed up with being followed, our protagonist tells the guy to stop hiding. Suddenly, the Blood Wolves group appears and finds our hero there. The leader says it was a stroke of luck, and that defeating their boss's son is unforgivable. Our boy then asks if they have any proof that it was him. But the brute says that if he said it was him, then it was, and charges at him. With an ironic smile, our hero says that's very convenient for them. He then ignores the guys and focuses on the serpent, which is preparing to attack. Without a second thought, our protagonist launches his ice arrows at the creature. The attack hits the serpent's head squarely, which has no time to react. And with a single blow, the creature is defeated and falls in front of the group of mercenaries. The mercenaries are shocked that he defeated an elite monster with just one hit. Our hero then turns around and confirms that it was him who defeated their boss's son. The group panics, not believing our protagonist's audacity. With an evil smile, he says that this information will have to be a secret. And then he prepares a massive fireball to finish them all off at once. A giant wave of flames heads towards the group of mercenaries without mercy. One of them even tries to resist, but the attack's power is simply overwhelming. The leader shouts that it's a disaster, and that if this continues, they'll all be done for. With no other option, the guy kneels and begs for forgiveness, offering everything he has. But the leader thinks about how strong our hero is, and that he needs to warn the boss. To buy time, he confesses that their items were stolen from a couple they defeated. The man even brags that the armor belonged to the husband, and that the wife was beautiful. Our hero is shocked and filled with rage upon hearing the couple's story. With a look of pure hatred, he says they all deserve the worst possible end. Back at the pavilion, he calls manager Lin and seems to have a plan in mind. After the dungeon, Jiang Li goes to an acquaintance to ask for an important favor. He then asks for help investigating the Blood Wolf mercenary group, because he wants the information as soon as possible and will pay whatever price. The man is quite shocked when he hears the name of the group he wants to investigate. Nevertheless, he agrees to help and sends someone to handle it right away. He warns our hero to be careful, but Jiang Li says he's already been ambushed by them. He also mentions that the leader of the group that attacked him was named Chen Dong. The man recognizes him as the vice leader and is surprised that he was defeated. Our protagonist says he's going to take the initiative to protect those he loves. The acquaintance praises him for his loyalty and starts sharing the information. He reveals that the group has 6 bronze-level guys and they don't usually split up. Furthermore, the strongest among them is the boss, a guy named Li Xiaoshan. He's a level 39 knight with an almost impenetrable defense. However, the group doesn't know about the defeat yet, so our hero has some time to act. And they are in the mountains because they were hired by the powerful Wang family. His friend calms him down and says the Wang family only hired the group to find dragon eggs. Seeing that Jiang Li really wants to fight them, Lin decides to lend a hand and calls him over to a place. He takes him to a fusion chamber and explains that skills can be optimized there, because in that place mages fuse spells to create new magic and save skill slots. Lin then warns that a fuse spell cannot be used again, and our hero prepares himself. Shortly after, he decides to test it and chooses his 2 most basic skills for the fusion. With Fireball and Arc Lightning, he creates a new skill, the Powerful Lightning Ball. Our protagonist is very happy because this will save him a lot of skill slots. He thanks him for the help and says he'll pay with the items he brought. But there's another matter. He then explains that he needs a boss's teeth to enchant a gem, but the creature won't appear. But his friend laughs and says he's already prepared something to help with that. He then hands him a magic lure that can attract the thunder crocodile Jiang Li is looking for. Our hero is very grateful, and Lin says the items he brought cover everything with some to spare. With the lure in hand, he prepares for his next hunt and heads to the swamp. Arriving there, he throws the lure into the water to attract the area boss and start the fight. The lure works, and a burst of lightning erupts from the water, drawing attention. Our hero gets excited and says the monster has finally shown up for the fight. At last, the level 33 Thunder Crocodile boss appears before him. The creature then charges at him with full force to finish off the intruder. But Jiang Li activates his light body technique and dodges the monster's attack. He narrowly dodges and realizes the attack was strong enough for an iron rank. With a smile, our boy compliments the monster for choosing an opponent of equal standing, and says that today the beast was unlucky to have run into him. The crocodile roars in anger and prepares a powerful electric attack. The creature then launches an energy ball with full force towards our hero, but he activates his light armor and defends against the attack by a hair's breadth. He then prepares an ice arrow and says this is the end of the line. The attack hits the monster, but its hide is too tough and causes no damage. Jiang Li is surprised as the beast's skin is incredibly resistant. He then realizes that attacking from the outside is useless and comes up with a new plan. So he decides that if it doesn't work from the outside, he'll attack from the inside. Seizing the opportunity, he prepares a fireball as the beast opens its mouth, and he throws the magic right inside, as if it were a little gift for the creature. The fireball then explodes with full force in the giant crocodile's throat. The creature writhes in pain from the explosion that happened inside it, but our hero uses his slow technique to make the monster's situation even worse. The spell hits the crocodile, leaving it completely vulnerable to the next blow. Jiang Li then explains that electricity only intensifies the power of flames, and because the monster opened its mouth, it saved our boy a lot of trouble. With one final blow, he defeats the boss and levels up twice at once. After the fight, he thinks about how useful skill fusion is, because now he can consider many more combinations of magic for fighting. Finally, he looks at the monster's body and wonders how he's going to get the teeth out. A while later, our boy is resting outside a house. He then reflects on everything that has happened while recovering his strength. Suddenly, a blacksmith comes out of the shop and says his work is done. Our hero asks how it turned out, and the master says the gem is perfect. With the crocodile's teeth, he improved the staff and now the weapon is gold rank. Jiang Li apologizes for not knowing how to collect them properly, but the blacksmith reassures him. He is then impressed by the staff's power and the new ability it gained. With a smile, he says he's now well prepared for what's to come. Suddenly, a call from Lin interrupts their conversation in the workshop. Without a second thought, our hero answers to see what it's about. His friend then tells him he has important information to share, and with a determined smile, he says it's time to finish off the blood wolves. Meanwhile, at the mercenaries' camp, someone arrives with bad news. The leader, Li Xiaoshan, is shocked to hear about the losses in his group. His second-in-command, Zhang Zi, says the culprit seems to be a very young mage. The boss then becomes furious, feeling disrespected by the boy's audacity. But royal matters are more urgent, and he needs to focus on the mission. But Li Xiaoshan yells that revenge can wait, as the royal mission is more important. He then orders all his men to gather to leave for the mission immediately. The group of mercenaries prepares for the hunt, looking very confident in their success. And so, they leave the camp to find the lair of the powerful dragon. Meanwhile, our hero is already in the forest, hidden and observing all the movement. Behind a tree, he wonders if that strong guy is the so-called Li Xiaoshan. The boss then gives a speech, saying they have finally found the Earth Dragon's lair, and he declares that today is the perfect day to attack, mentioning the recent loss. He also promises that as soon as he ranks up, he will hunt down the enemy personally, and he swears he will show everyone the true power of the Blood Wolf mercenaries. The speech works and all his men cheer the leader's name, very excited. Our boy then decides to follow them to launch a surprise attack in the middle of the fight. The group arrives at the cave and finds the Earth Dragon, which is very intimidating. Fearlessly, Li Xiaoshan orders his men to advance while Jiang Li prepares in the back. The Earth Dragon roars in anger and prepares for the great battle to come. The dragon wastes no time and attacks one of the mercenaries without any mercy. Other members of the group try to use magic, but the monster retaliates with a fireball. One of the assassins tries to attack from above, but the beast's hide is too tough. He then uses his 2 daggers but can't even scratch the creature. The mercenary complains that the monster is too resistant, and he can't get through. The dragon then seizes the opportunity and attacks the guy who was on its back. Next, the creature uses earth magic to attack the rest of the group. The skill raises several rocks from the ground and hits one of the guys on the team. Seeing the situation, Li Xiaoshan uses his stone shield to protect the team. With the defense up, he tells everyone to get behind him for protection. He then says he's going in and tells the team to wait for his signal. With his giant charge ability, he prepares for the attack. The boss then charges with full force and hits the dragon with insane power. The charge is so strong that it throws the creature far away and stops the earthquake. His men celebrate and praise the leader for defeating the monster single-handedly. However, the boss yells at his men and tells them to aim for the monster's eyes. The creature then glares at the group with a look of pure rage, ready to fight back. One of the mages takes the chance and casts a spell that hits the dragon's eye. The attack hits the creature, but another mysterious spell also hits the monster. The boss is thrown back by the explosion and has no idea what happened. He gets angry and yells at his men, telling them not to stop attacking. Suddenly, one of the guys notices an enemy nearby and panics. And in the middle of the fire, our hero says it's a shame, because today they will all fall. With a determined look, Jiang Li prepares to finish off all the mercenaries. He then says that no one will leave that cave alive and readies his attack. Suddenly, an arrow flies towards him, and he needs to defend himself quickly. but he activates his light armor and manages to block the attack without any problem. The mercenaries are furious that he dared to attack their group, so they tell the boss to handle the dragon while they try to hold off our hero. Li Xiaoshan gets annoyed but returns to fighting the dragon to finish the mission. The boss continues his fight against the dragon with a powerful blow, but the monster forces him to fight seriously, and he decides to end it once and for all. Then with a strong stomp on the ground, he prepares for the final attack. He then leaps with his axe to wipe out the creature, and with a devastating blow, he hits the powerful earth dragon squarely. But he turns and scoffs, thinking our hero was stronger. A moment later, he orders the rest of his men to quickly surround the boy. However, everyone is shocked by the mage's speed and power. One of them then asks who our hero is, but he only needs to know one thing, because he's the guy who's going to end all of their lives right here. With that said, an ice spear flies and hits the boss, who defends against the attack. The ice attack clashes against the knight's armor with full force. Our boy then compliments the famous defense of the Greystone Knight. Li Xiaoshan realizes he's the one who defeated his men and recognizes him. Finally, he says that since the boy came to him, they'll settle the score right here. Our hero then says he plans to do the same and prepares a spell. He uses his swamp magic and traps the mercenaries who were on the ground. But our boy says it's not over yet and prepares his lightning ball. Li Xiaoshan is shocked that he can use 2 spells at once. The boss then calls them cheap tricks and prepares to defend against the attack. The lightning ball hits the shield, but the power of the electric attack surprises him. The magic explodes, throwing him back with the force of the electric impact. He realizes he spent too much power against the dragon and needs to retreat, so he uses his absolute defense to create a giant stone barrier. The ability creates a wave of earth that protects him and his men. The boss knows our hero's mana must be low and that he can recover, but Zhang Lei scoffs, calling the great leader a scared turtle in its shell. He then prepares the special ability of his new golden staff. He launches a blue energy beam with full force towards the stone barrier. The attack hits squarely and begins to break the knight's absolute defense. Days later in the city, the news spreads and Lin says our hero is going to be famous, because his identity wasn't discovered, and since the group was evil, he became a hero. Our boy then reads a paper and discovers his new nickname, the Dark Mage. He gets a little worried and hopes this doesn't bring him more trouble. Suddenly, the room door bursts open, interrupting their conversation. It was Mo Qingqing and Vivi, who immediately start fighting over who will team up with him. Our boy is very confused, not understanding how the two met. With a look of desperation, he realizes this kind of trouble is inevitable,